I wanted to at least come over here and tell you at least why I'm a theist, and at least why I think atheism is wrong in a sense, or at least it doesn't do very much to help us as a race. I mean, because
Okay.
All right. So
what kind of theist are you? I mean, you may be going to get to that. I'm just curious.
Okay. Well, first of all, I must definitely tell you that I am not a Christian.
Well, I'm just. I assume usually when somebody identifies themselves as a theist, it's
sadly, I believe that Christianity causes a lot of needless destruction and pain and logic, and it really does make us do a whole lot of stupid things.
Okay. So
however, I do believe that we have to that we are here, that we are here as human beings, and we have a point of view in this world, if nothing else.
Oh, I believe that. But I don't see how that's theism. But we're gonna shut up and you can talk.
Okay. So from this point of view that we come into this world and we know nothing about it, we must assume that there is a malevolent deity out there, okay, that is willing to trick us.
What?
Why?
Huh?
Why do we have to assume that?
Because why isn't there? Why couldn't there be?
Should we also assume that there are pink fairies who tie my shoelaces?
Hey, there may be. We may be the Red King's dream.
So basically you're saying you should believe anything until it's proven wrong.
Right.
So why aren't you a Christian and a Buddhist and a Muslim all at the same time?
Well, that's just it. We might be wrong. So we have to take the worst possible case scenario and prove it wrong.
No, well, wait. Why should we do that?
Why should we do that?
Yeah.
Because if we can prove that the worst possible scenario is BS, then at least that's not true. I mean, that maybe may have not made much sense here, but what I'm trying to say is that I believe that if the worst possible scenario for us being on this earth is correct, and in my case that's Christianity, that basically means that we're going to have a God that someday judges us based off of our decisions, and if we don't have the right decisions, then we're going to get sent to, well, quote-unquote hell, right? Then we have to prove that that's not the case. Okay?
Why?
Why do we have to prove that's not the case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if we're wrong and that is the case, then we're screwed.
That's Pascal's wager. That's bullshit.
That's bullshit?
Yes.
Well, okay, so why shouldn't we have to prove that wrong?
The burden of proof is on the person asserting the claim.
Right. Well, it's the person asserting the claim, but the thing about it is they could be right because we don't really know, do we?
Well, then it's up to them to prove that they're right.
Okay, then I'm going to tell you right now that there is a malevolent deity that put us all here, and no matter what you do or what you think, he's going to hang you upside down by your testicles for eternity and poke you with hot sticks. It doesn't matter. You can't get out of it.
I can't get out of it.
You need to prove. Well, the only way out of it is to send me a check for $1 million. Now you need to assume that since that's the worst case scenario, that it's true. So you should have to prove that wrong, right?
Okay, and normally I guess according to a normal thing, I would ask you, well, what makes you so right? And so but you don't think that's right. So
no. That's the perfect question. That's the question we say you're not asking. You're saying we need to assume that the worst is true and prove it wrong. And when I challenge you with that, you come back with, well, normally I'd ask you what makes you so right. That's the right question. That's what we're saying needs to happen.
Okay. All right. So in response to that, what I would say is that, okay, well, I'm not quite sure that you're right. So what I'll do is I'll just basically observe. I'll assume something and then ask you questions to that. Like, so for example, I'll say, I believe that there is a deity because I believe that there's a limit to the amount of experiences that I have. Okay, I've experienced everything in my life that I believe to be good, I believe to be bad. I know everything that I know. I know that there's possibly a limit to everything I can know that I can learn with the time that I have here on this earth.
How does that lead to, you just said, there's a deity because there's a limit to your knowledge. How does having a limit on knowledge lead to there is a deity as a conclusion?
Okay, because there is a limit to my knowledge, there is something that's beyond it.
No. That's are
there things that you don't know?
Well, yes. But because something is not known doesn't mean that it's unknowable. And it doesn't mean
because something is unknown does not mean it's not known?
No, because just because something is unknown does not mean that it's unknowable.
It does not mean it's unknowable.
It also doesn't mean that...
Potentially, right?
And just because I don't know something doesn't mean there's somebody out there who does.
Who doesn't? Okay.
No, who does?
Do you know for certain that the person sitting next to you right now, Matt? Do you know that Jen is sitting next to you right now?
For certain? Depends on what you mean by for certain, but for the highest possible degree of certainty, I know that Jen is sitting next to me.
Here, I'll do that experiment again.
Okay.
There.
Oh, he can't. He may not be able to see.
Yeah, he may
She
not be.
poked me.
I poked Matt, so there's an experiment.
Yeah, right. You poked Matt. So basically Matt's probably there. But the thing about it is that may be an illusion.
It could be.
It could be.
You might be wrong.
Yep.
But you know, if our senses are an illusion, if everything we see, if we're just a brain in a vat,
then we're in big trouble.
Well, exactly. And the thing is, we have no basis for even having this conversation.
Right. We have no basis. We don't have no basis for anything.
So
all we can know is what we
even
can.
if there is a malevolent deity out there, though,
yes,
that is making that happen, and that really sucks if we're brains in a vat.
You know what? I can't worry about that.
Right. Even if there
I
is
have no reason to worry about that.
Right. We still exist, though.
Well,
yes.
Right. And you know what? By using my senses and by using critical thinking skills and even the scientific method here and there, I'm able to produce repeatable results.
Mm-hmm.
My senses are reliable, and I can use the information I gain to make predictions about the real world. So on that basis, I conclude that what I'm perceiving as reality is in fact here.
Right, to the limit that the scientific process allows you to do that.
But I don't want to get sidetracked. A minute ago, you said that you know there's a deity because there's a limit to your knowledge, and I have yet to hear anything that approaches an explanation of how you got... Here's what it is.
Right.
There's a limit to my knowledge. I need this step, and then there is a deity. What's this step?
Okay. The step is that even though we may be able to use scientific knowledge to prove that Matt and Jen are there, the point is that even if the scientific method were wrong and we were all brains in a jar, the fact is that we are still brains in a jar, meaning that we don't not exist.
I agree. We exist. We're done with that.
As a result, we had to come here as a result, something had to give us our point of view. We couldn't just get our point of view on our own. Our point of view was bestowed on us.
What?
What?
Our point of view was given to us.
No, I heard you, but
There is no
cannot
cause
believe it.
to our point of view. There's no first cause to our point of view. I'm talking about the first cause argument.
I don't even... I'm not able to grok what you're saying. Something must have given us our point of view.
All right. We were basically what goes on is that there's a first cause to all this. Basically, I could say that my point of view came from being born, right? My parents had sex. But then at the same time, there's a first cause to things because we live...
By point of view, are you just saying existence with different words?
I'm saying that basically at some point something had to give us our point of view, and that even if we were being completely deceived from, if we were being completely deceived by a malevolent deity, that malevolent deity cannot tell us that we don't exist. That is why there's a God.
It sounds like you're saying that at some point you became a conscious entity, and whether it happened in a vat. Or whether it happened as a result of your parents, at some point there had to be some first...
I had to be willed into existence.
No. What makes you think people are willed into existence?
Because I don't know how they would get there otherwise.
Oh, so it's a big argument from ignorance. You can't think of any other way. You can't think of... Brooks, hang on. You're saying that because you can't think of anything other than people being willed into existence, therefore, people were willed into existence.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is I have to, is that by the time we get off this call, we've got to know. Because if we die not knowing, then, I mean, I'm basically what I'm trying to say.
Guess what, Brooks? If we die without knowing, then we've died without knowing.
Okay.